Johnny Carson couldn't stop laughing on this hilarious joke made by Albert Brooks.
You're gonna give her a car, right? What's she gonna give you, buddy?
And this George Gobel made the entire Tonight Show episode insanely funny.
When you come on last, did you ever get the feeling that the world was a tuxedo and you were a pair of brown shoes?
Here are the most funny guests that were highly underrated and deserved way more popularity. Charles Nelson Reilly opens things up at number 10.
He is, by his own definition, he calls himself one of the most overexposed unknowns on television.
Younger viewers might only recognize the flamboyant character from Match Game, yet this was a Tony-winning Broadway star who landed on The Tonight Show more than 100 times.
I went to a restaurant, I said, half a cannelloni, please, and a salad with Russian, and 2 people said we would turn it down.
The waiter said they offered that to me.
Geography deserves part of the credit because Reilly lived only blocks from NBC's Burbank studios, which meant that whenever a booked guest canceled, he became the first phone call producers made. He never let them down.
How are you, okay?
Excellent, just great.
My mother's favorite television star. I'm sorry, but that's how it is. Okay, the first question.
You don't say anything.
Surviving the Hartford circus fire as a 13-year-old boy left him with a lasting unease around crowds, and he stayed open about who he was during a period when that took real nerve.
Why doesn't your mother like me?
He's here more than you are.
On Johnny's couch, though, the man turned into pure joy. One of his finest moments grew out of a Broadway show he directed that closed after a single performance.
I write in cement. So today I would like to send him a big bag of cement and say, write another biggie, baby.
And he spun that complete disaster into one of the funniest stories Carson ever leaned back and enjoyed.
I had to call the gardener. I had to call the marina and say, take the boat out.
Reilly passed in 2007, remembered far too rarely as one of the great unsung storytellers of the whole Carson era.
My mother's in a home. I've got to move her to a state institution. All of this goes on.
You're cutting it that close,
By
huh?
cutting it that close, I have nothing left.
Our next guest didn't simply drop by the program, he practically moved in. David Brenner claims the number 9 spot.
You know what the toughest job has to be? A police sketch artist in China.
And his signature number is 158, the total count of his Tonight Show appearances, which made him the most frequent guest in the program's history.
This is the one I hate the most. When you see your doctor, put on that rubber glove. Because you realize that in a few moments you're going to know exactly how a puppet feels.
Comedy was his second act. Before the jokes ever started, Brenner worked as a serious documentary filmmaker who produced, wrote, and directed more than 100 films and gathered roughly 30 awards, an Emmy among them.
And I like when they give you the map treatment. They always give you, oh, look, you're right here. And his hand covers New York, Colorado, and Nevada.
Walking away from all of that to stand on a stage, he reached his national television debut in 1971. Carson took to him so completely that Brenner ended up guest hosting somewhere near 75 times throughout the 70s and 80s. His friend Richard Lewis crowned him the king of hip observational comedy.
Cop sees him. Hey, Harry, look at that guy. Weird, huh? Standing on his head, holding a strap with his foot.
Here's the part that earns him this list, though. At the very height of his fame, Brenner cut back his own appearances on purpose because he was fighting for custody of his son, and the courts would have branded him an absentee father if he traveled too much. The most frequent guest the show ever welcomed, and barely anyone today could repeat one of his jokes.
Like a couple weeks ago, I bought a hair blower. It sucks.
Brenner passed in 2014. The single funniest moment anywhere on this list, though, belongs to a man almost nobody under 60 would recognize today. George Gobel earns the number 8 slot, and this is the clip the diehards bring up every single time.
When can you tell that wine is bad even before you taste it? And I said, when it says on the label, 10 cents off on a pair of pinking shears.
During a March 1969 appearance, Gobel strolled onto The Tonight Show last, taking his seat after Bob Hope and Dean Martin, 2 of the biggest stars on the planet, had already settled onto the couch. Imagine the least famous man in the room clutching a little plastic cup, while Dean Martin quietly flicked ashes into his drink whenever he glanced away.
I think I haven't checked the paper.
Out of that setup came one of the most replayed lines the show ever produced. Turning to Johnny, Gobel asked,
When you come on last, did you ever get the feeling that the world was a tuxedo and you were a pair of brown shoes?
The studio came apart. Watching his own program slide completely beyond his control, Carson finally cried out,
Exactly what time did I lose control of the show?
Gobel even slipped in a gem about his stateside service during the deadpanning that not one enemy aircraft ever made it past Tulsa. Back in the 50s, he'd been a top 10 television star known as Lonesome George.
Once I got bit by an old dog. He didn't even have any teeth. he died shortly after.
Yet this one Carson appearance is what truly immortalized him. Gobel passed in 1991. From a forgotten legend, we turn to a comic whose characters earned far more credit than they ever collected. Bob Nelson lands at number 7.
Static electricity, electromagnetic activity, the balloon will stick to the microphone. Maybe I'm doing it wrong.
Anyone who caught Rodney Dangerfield's HBO Young Comedian special saw him in action, since Nelson served as Rodney's opening act for 8 straight years and shared those famous showcases with future giants like Jerry Seinfeld and Rita Rudner.
Here's my dream girl. Here's my dream girl lying down on her back. Hey! Here she is going really fast on a roller coaster.
Everybody around him turned into a household name, while Nelson stayed under the radar. And that's the real shame, because his act looked like nobody else's on the circuit.
Jim, James, Tom, Pete, Harry, come on in, it's time for dinner. Oh, I'm sorry.
Working as a rubber-faced character comic, he built his most beloved bit around a football routine that parodied those breathless college all-star player rundowns, complete with a roster of oddball characters.
He hits me again, I go right down and my face slammed right into the canvas, which was very odd because I landed on my back.
Stand-up in that era leaned hard on clever observation, yet Nelson charged the opposite direction with wild, physical, character-driven comedy. And that contrast made him a memorable Tonight Show guest.
Boy, that's funny. You won't laugh any harder in 5 or 6 minutes than you laughed at that guy, Bob Nelson.
Here's the good news. Bob Nelson is still with us, still performing, and after a serious health scare a few years back, he came through it free. He remains a true original who never landed the spotlight he'd earned.
Come on, go ahead, make my day.
This next guest never worked as a comedian at all, because he made his name as a prizefighter, and he still ranked among the funniest people Carson ever booked. Randall Tex Cobb arrives at number 6. Plenty of viewers know him as the terrifying bounty hunter from the Coen brothers Raising Arizona, but long before Hollywood came calling, Cobb fought as a heavyweight boxer with more than 40 wins and a chin built out of granite.
I figured, well, mostly what we'll do is we'll just play a very, very advanced game of tag. And I'm telling you right now, after 45 minutes, I was it.
Yeah.
In November of 1982, inside the Houston Astrodome, he went a full 15 rounds against the great Larry Holmes with the title on the line. He took an absolute beating and never once went down.
There's a big story out today by Dr. Lundberg. He said boxing is an obscenity, should be outlawed because it damages too many people.
So, one-sided was the contest that broadcaster Howard Cosell vowed never to call another professional boxing match again. Cobb's reaction tells you everything about him, because he carried that humiliation straight onto Johnny's couch and turned it into comedy gold.
What do you think about that?
However, looked to me like his eyes are brown.
Yeah.
When Carson gently observed that Holmes seemed to own a much longer reach, Cobb came right back with,
He seems to have a much longer reach than you do.
Looked like that to you, too.
Yeah.
On the subject of Cosell, Randall Cobb made this joke which was so hilarious that Johnny himself couldn't stop laughing at his joke.
Tell me, Randall, when did you know he had you?
Is that he doesn't care if it's boxing or ball. He's at least as good in boxing as anything else.
Lightning quick and impossibly likable, this was a man who had just lost badly and somehow had the whole country rooting for him. One old rumor deserves a correction, since Tex Cobb is very much alive and well. Now the countdown shifts toward the comics who rewrote what stand-up could be, beginning with a performer who barely seemed to move at all. Steven Wright settles in at number 5.
I have a pony. I have a Shetland pony named Nicky, and last summer he was involved in a bizarre electoral.
On August 6, 1982, a young comedian carrying a flat, sleepy monotone walked out for his Tonight Show debut and delivered surreal one-liners unlike anything audiences had heard before.
All my hair was removed except for the tail. Now I rent him out to Hare Krishna family picnics.
Carson came away so floored that he did the thing he almost never did for a newcomer, inviting Wright back a mere 6 days later. Discovered at a Cambridge comedy club called the Ding Ho by the show's executive producer.
I was walking down the street, I bumped into a good friend of mine. He said, "How come you never call me anymore?" I said, "I can't call everyone I want. My phone has no 5 on it."
Wright watched that debut become the single most important 6 minutes of his entire career. Nothing else sounded quite like his material, with lines such as,
"Called the wrong number today." I said, "Hello, is Joey there?" And a woman answered. She said, "Yes, yes." I said, "Can I speak to him, please?" She said, "No, he can't talk right now. He's only 2 months old."
He once compared his craft to a kid finger painting, except working with words instead of paint. Rolling Stone would eventually rank him the 15th greatest stand-up of all time and call him the undisputed king of the deadpan one-liner.
He said, "That's really weird. How long have you had it?" I said, "I don't know. My calendar has no 7s.
Wright is still with us and still touring today, living proof that the quietest voice in the room can be the one you never forget. The most bittersweet entry on the whole list comes next. A beloved star who found humor inside the hardest circumstances a person can face. Michael Landon holds the number 4 position.
My kids have their choice. They can stay up till 9, they can have a severe beating at 8 and go to bed.
Millions knew him as Little Joe on Bonanza and as Pa on Little House on the Prairie. And away from the cameras, he counted Johnny Carson as a close friend and Malibu neighbor.
I don't like to take it away from Bob Hope, but this is my 26th anniversary on television.
During the spring of 1991, after announcing that he was battling an inoperable illness, Landon came on The Tonight Show one final time on May 9th. The whole thing could have turned unbearably grim. Instead, the man stayed funny, brave, and completely himself.
Oh, I take coffee enemas. Anybody out there ever heard of a coffee enema?
Yes, I've heard of it.
Joking about the wild tabloid stories and the unconventional treatments strangers kept suggesting, he listened as an audience member admitted to trying one of them, then fired back,
"Oh, you must be fun to have breakfast with."
Yes.
More than 50,000 letters poured in afterward, and the response left him overwhelmed as he told everyone simply,
I must tell everybody, thank you. Tremendous mail response. And
near the close of the interview, Carson told him,
"You know, I was a little worried about this interview tonight. You've made me feel much better with your attitude."
That July, at 54, Landon passed. In one last act of grace, just days earlier, he had phoned Carson, whose own son had passed in a car crash that very same month, only to offer his comfort.
I now have the most incredible lazy Susan.
It stands as one of the most human moments the show ever put on the air. From that farewell, we move to a beginning, the jittery debut that introduced one of television's sharpest comedy minds. Garry Shandling claims the number 3 spot.
What they should do is just describe the people, see? Then we know who they're talking about. They could just go, "The couple with the ugly children. Your table's ready?"
On March 18th, 1981, he made his national television debut on Carson, and the set played as a knockout, dry and self-deprecating, and a touch dark all at the same time.
And we know it's these people over here. We're so sorry. You want to cover those kids up? We're going to try to eat here. Thank you very much.
What everyone remembers, though, is the ending. Carson waved him toward the couch, the single highest honor the program could hand a comic, and Shandling, frozen solid with nerves, missed the cue completely and wandered the wrong way off stage. Reassuring the audience, Carson promised they had not heard the last of Mr. Garry Shandling, and that prediction proved exactly right. Guest hosting the show himself soon followed, and that experience fed directly into his masterpiece, The Larry Sanders Show.
Doggy downers or something. I don't know what they are, but they tasted real minty and they were hard to swallow.
Respect for him ran so deep that NBC reportedly dangled $5 million in 1993 to lure him into taking over a late-night show. He turned it down flat.
We've all done this. When you see a cow on the side of the road, you stick your head out the car window and go, "Moo!"
Shandling passed in 2016, and Judd Apatow's later documentary reminded the world exactly how brilliant the man truly was. Our runner-up helped invent modern stand-up itself, and he kept returning to that famous couch for the better part of 50 years. Robert Klein takes the number 2 position.
My feeling is when you're named Oral, you're skating on thin ice to begin with.
Standing beside George Carlin and Richard Pryor, Klein helped reshape stand-up across the 1970s into something smart, conversational, and grounded in observation.
I had a very poor lead-in. I was on after the real estate seminar. You know that one?
Oh, do I know it?
His Tonight Show debut arrived on January 19th, 1968. The first of more than 100 appearances, and he went on to become the very first comedian to headline an HBO stand-up special.
Now you have a tax lien, that's page 522, and you purchased the city of Cleveland.
Jerry Seinfeld once called him the Beatles of comedy. Klein summed up his gratitude plainly, saying of Carson, "He was so important for my career."
They always said, I made $220,000. You know, they know there's something wrong. I've not made $200,000.
Here's what makes the story land, though. Decades down the road, the show still wanted him, and upon reaching his 89th appearance under a new host, Klein joked,
"Wow, I was retired. Just when I was out, they pull you back in."
Robert Klein is still with us today, a foundational comic who never quite drew the public adoration his peers received, yet earned every laugh he ever got. That leaves number one. The guest Johnny Carson may have loved laughing at more than anyone who ever walked out from behind that curtain. Albert Brooks sits at the very top of the list.
Buddy, what is it, buddy?
I-E-E.
Oh, buddy.
Born Albert Einstein, and yes, that was his real name, he liked to joke that the actual Einstein changed his name to sound more intelligent.
I happen to have fans that don't drive well, but I can't help that.
Of course.
Yeah. Albert Einstein couldn't drive.
Across more than 40 Tonight Show appearances, Brooks used the platform to attempt something almost reckless, building experimental, conceptual comedy that flirted with not being funny at all right until the instant it turned hilarious.
You begin to make a child's train noise. Woo! In with a potato. Woo!
Reading names straight out of the phone book, he mocked the worn-out cliche that a great comic could get laughs reading anything.
Uh-huh. You're gonna give her a car, right? What's she gonna give you, buddy?
V-D.
Mime became another favorite tool, performed while he narrated every single movement out loud. He once played the world's most hopelessly inept ventriloquist.
I'm not the dummy, you're the dummy. If you don't have to pedal it and it's not a motorbike, how do you get anywhere? Well, I don't have to pedal it. I don't have to get anywhere either.
During one legendary bit, Brooks announced that he'd run out of material, then started pelting himself with a pie and cracking eggs over his own head until the crowd roared at his sheer comic desperation.
Here I am, 5 years into my career. I have no more material left. I couldn't resort to cheap tricks? Come on, I can drop my pants.
May of 1983 brought Buddy, a talking toy spelling machine he introduced on the air. By every account, Carson would dissolve into helpless laughter the moment Brooks appeared, and he affectionately tagged him Crazy Albert Brooks.
Can I buy a pie? I can break eggs on my head as easily as anyone.
An Oscar-nominated film career followed, and in 2023, his lifelong friend Rob Reiner directed a documentary celebrating him. Albert Brooks is still with us, the comedian's comedian, and our number one.
What you just did in front of 12 million people. Nobody. GTE.
That's the full countdown. 10 guests who made Johnny Carson laugh until he lost command of his own show and absolutely deserved to be remembered for it. A few of them, David Brenner and George Gobel among them, towered over their era before slipping out of public memory. Others, Steven Wright and Robert Klein and Albert Brooks, are still out there drawing laughs right now. What links every name on this list is one simple truth, that across 3 full decades, the couch beside Johnny's desk doubled as the place where comedy history got made, and these 10 earned their seat on it even after the spotlight drifted somewhere else. If the underrated Carson guest you love most didn't show up here, drop their name and tell us who we missed. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.